So check it out. We've made a complete application. I want to call it done, but I think, as you know, nothing is ever done. Things can always be a little more perfect. I'm not going to make anything any more perfect today, but let me point out some things that could be addressed if you were feeling like you wanted to take this a little further. So the main thing is this input slider right here. The problem is that this halftone component, it looks really smooth, right? It does take some CPU time to create this halftone. You don't really notice it with the higher values. It looks really responsive, but we can make it actually super low if we keep going down and get really fine. So my mouse kind of locked up on 5, and as I was sliding it, it kept trying to re-render it, and it's making the CPU chug quite a bit. And so as we take this down even further, it's not even responsive. And as I say that, of course, it tells me the page is unresponsive, and it just crashed. So this is not something we want to happen. But maybe what we could make it do is make our input sliding event a little smarter, so it doesn't cause the change event to happen every time it gets the input event, because these things can happen multiple times a second, and it can just, in this situation, it can really overwhelm our halftone components. The other thing, I can see it's scrolling a little this way. That doesn't need to happen. We can turn that off, and that should be a real easy thing to do. But what I really want to focus right now on is finishing up this project with this logo. I never said what this logo would be, but I have a cool thing we can do to fill that in. So I'm going to head over to our floating header.html. So remember, our floating header allows us to upload an image of our choice, or it allows us to choose one of our 4 images right here. I want to actually duplicate this button, and I want to give it a different icon. I think there's a camera icon in the Spectrum icons workflow. So let's replace this with camera. And I'm going to change this event type to camera. So now when we reload, there's a nice little camera button here, but it's not wired up to anything yet. So let's do that. So now we're going back to our application HTML file. I am going to use our new camera event and say camera equals react to the event, and change our scope.image equals camera. And now is the fun part. I hope this works. We're going to click this camera button. And yeah, you can see me as a halftone right in real time here. So it's doing all this work in real time against the web camera. I'm going to change the spread. I'm going to bring it down a little bit so you can see me a little better. If I invert the pattern, I think, yes, I look a lot better here. So here I am. Let's change some colors. There we go. That looks nice. So while I'm in halftone land, I want to say thank you for following along, building an application with me. I hope building an entire application like this, it gives you some confidence in, building something with web components and lit and web dev server. Lit's not a framework, it's a library. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about building things, and we've covered quite a few of them, but there's quite a few more, especially when you see some of the exciting patterns coming out of Lit 2. And I'm excited to keep exploring all of these things going forward in future episodes. But before I go, I did promise we were going to fill out our logo right there. So let's do that. Let's save as SVG. And let's exit halftone land for now. Now this halftone is pretty complex as I've made it because my shape types are pretty small. So you can see there's a lot of shapes here in this SVG. I wouldn't want to just dump it in my container right here, my logo container, because it would probably quadruple the size of this code. So let's make another file, and we're going to call it logo.js, and this is going to live right in our side panel folder. Now remember, when we used the CSS tag template from Lit, we also used the HTML tag template from Lit. We're going to do the same thing, except we're going to use the SVG tag template from Lit. And so the SVG tag template is just what you should be using to render SVG as opposed to HTML or CSS. So we're going to export const logo equals SVG. And then we're going to copy and paste all that stuff right inside here. There we go. And then to use it, we're going to import logo from logo. So now we're going to pop that right in our string in here, and it should render the entire SVG. Okay, so that's a little too much SVG. So let's walk this back and constrain it a little bit. So if you remember, our the height and width of our logo was 50 pixels by 50 pixels. So let's give that a go and see if it does what we want. So the answer is that it sort of does what we want, but we can't see the entire thing. So I'm going to do something with the scaling to maybe do 0.1 for both directions. And this is a complete guess, so hopefully it works. And as we reload, there we go. But yeah, I'm right here in my logo as a SVG, which again, we generated by using the camera feature and taking a snapshot live. This was pretty cool, right? So let me go back to Halftone Land one more time to say thanks for joining. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you're excited about using web components and Lit and Web Dev Server, and maybe even Spectrum web components in the future. So until next time, we'll be exploring more. Check out the next episode. So later.